I've always been a fan of From Software games. Played Dark Souls, Sekiro, and Elden Ring a lot. And I mean a lot. For me, these games are really a full package of excitement, satisfaction, and accomplishment amid all the frustration, fear, and anxiety they perfectly evoke. What captivates me the most are the compelling stories of each boss, the lore behind their individual tragedies that shaped their misfortune. I have come to notice that I gravitate towards enemies more than the heroes. For example, Elden Ring's General Radahn, Dark Souls 3's Yhorm the Giant, and Sekiro's Demon of Hatred. Each of their narratives are so compelling that in a crestfallen yet gripping kind of way, it only makes me more and more drawn to them. In many RPG games released throughout the years, we always see glorified heroes fighting and killing the monsters. We rarely see the monsters as the main character. I want to create a game that mainly follows the story of the monsters, how they came to be, and how they too have their own valid motives. In my game, you play as a monster who simply defends its land from invading human settlers whose main goal is to gather magical resources from your island and hunt you down. My game is heavily inspired by the narrative of anime titles like Overlord, or That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, where you play as the non-human in a world full of humans. Our game is set in an open-world medieval fantasy third-person RPG where you play as a wisp, a glowing ball of light that just hovers above ground, harmless just like Rimro the Slime, placed in a world where monsters and humans cannot coexist. The Wisp's main ability is to transform and use its natural surroundings like trees, rocks, and water to create elementals, monsters that will help you protect and retake the island from human invaders. Basically, the enemies are settlers who are trying to conquer your island to gather resources called life essence that fuels their magic. At the same time, capture you and your fellow Wisp to make a catalyst for their magic. In this video, I'll be sharing my first month of creating my very first game. It has always been my dream since I was a child to build my own video games, and finally, I'm attempting to make it happen. I know that this project and concept might be rather too ambitious, given its huge scope and complexity, not to mention my limited game development skills that I am yet to hone as I go along in my journey. However, deep inside, I just can't shake this urge not to try making my vision come to life. I felt like I just had to do it, and I'm determined to see it through. If you're new to my channel, I'm a solo indie game developer from the Philippines, learning the ropes of game development. I post my development progress and learnings in short progress diary videos and long monthly devlogs like this one as I progress in my game development journey. If you're interested in following my progress, feel free to subscribe to my channel and get notified for any new updates. With that out of the way, let's begin. I'm just new to game development, so I don't really have any idea on where and how to start. So on day one, I just mostly watched YouTube videos of tutorials. I watched Brackeys, Cold Monkeys, Thomas Brush, Lost Relic Games, and many more. I'll put some links in the description below for their channels if you're interested. My journey began with my wife. Always ask your wife or life partner if you make difficult decisions like this. I know that being a solo indie game developer would take a lot of time, effort, and resources just to learn, implement, and fund your dream game. So I asked her if it's okay for me to start my journey as a new learning game developer, knowing that I won't really generate immediate income for my family. I was so glad that I have her support.
Destined death.
First, I downloaded Unity and other tools for game development. With the tools in place, I started generating my initial ideas for the Wisp and the Tree Spirit, which is a monster that the Wisp can transform into. I'm not really an artist, so I used inspiration from Google, searched a lot of images, and also used AI generated art just to test its capabilities. So far so good. Once I got the general idea of the characters that I wanted, it's time to translate these ideas to Unity. I made the Wisp model in Unity along with some simple terrain with the help of assets from the asset store. Again, I'm not an artist, and I know deep inside that if I myself will take my time in creating these assets for my game, it would take me a very long time to finish them. So to save time and effort and possible frustrations along the way, I simply bought ready-made polished assets from the asset store. The first day was simply learning the tools of my long development journey of making my dream game. I played around with Unity's particle systems and lighting settings. I tested out an awesome forest asset from the asset store. Just learning the ropes on how to navigate Unity and how to use the tools to modify terrain and the prefabs. I did a lot of studying with a lot of YouTube videos at this point. Most of my time was spent on learning and testing. I simply applied what I've learned from the videos to my test scene. I added night and day and tested some wind effects. At this point, I decided to set the mood of the game in advance. I want to know how the game feels. I know it's against all advice out there to polish your game's look first before the main gameplay mechanic, but I just want to get the feel and mood of the game that I want. I also experimented with floating physics objects for the Wisp, and just decided to scrap it and just use rigid body instead. And just use a floating animation effect to simulate the Wisp floating. As much as possible, making things simpler was the best approach. Also added some camera dampening to make the camera follow the Wisp smoother when it traverses through rough terrain. Most of my time on the next days are spent on experimenting and trial and error. Around this time, I made the first UI. It's simple, just some simple text with tips on what key to press to access the skill. This is also the first time the Wisp can interact with its environment. Just like Souls games, I really want a game with less to no hand holding. So my game has no map. Instead of a map, I'm giving the Wisp the ability to check its surroundings from a high angle. This is where I came up with the idea of the Wisp binding to a tree and using the eyes of the forest to see the surroundings from a higher point of view. I also added the first resource of the game, the Life Essence. Life Essence is also a resource that the human settlers came to harvest. Mainly, they use it to fuel their magic. Life Essence is extracted from trees where they burst out from. I played around with the post-processing settings to check how the game looks with bright lights at nighttime. I also made some animations for the Wisp when it binds with a tree. And also, I made its first mobility skill. The Wisp can simply dash around to evade hunters. It's a simple animation, but it works. After several YouTube videos about game development and tips on how to start, I also decided to create my studio name and my YouTube channel ahead of time, just to formally document everything and maybe, if my game is good enough to pique someone's interest and hopefully start building a community. Many videos emphasize the importance of trying to build a community earlier on. Honestly, still a bit lost when it comes to that, but I just gotta do what I gotta do and try. Back to the development. I also played around with the particle system force fields. I want the Wisp to absorb the essence particles that are spawned by the tree, just like how Minecraft absorbs experience points when you kill an enemy. I made a full gameplay loop for resource gathering. I added some UI for the life essence and it works great. The Wisp now can collect life essence and use it for its skills. I'm so happy at this point that I finally made a small part of the game complete. It's a tiny part of the game, but at least in my mind, I finally made something. Towards the end of the week, burnout started to hit hard. Being a solo developer is hard. From concept artist to game designer to programmer, lore master, video editor, marketing, QA, technical design, and animator. My mind wants to continue, but my body can no longer keep up.
O Erd Tree, you shall burn.
With this experience, I learned that game development is not a race, and it doesn't have to be the ultimate best game, given it's your first try and you're still learning.
Thank you for guiding me here.
I decided to step back and relax and do some simple stuff, so I went with level design. And oh boy, I thought it was simple.
You are so very warm.
Before I went to proceed with making level design, I first thought of making a reference to the sizes of things. So I decided to make one of the monsters the Wisp can conjure, the skeleton. Skelly is a regular size character that is perfect for size reference. My plan for the skeleton is to make a gameplay style similar to a necromancer with low HP, but you can summon co-monsters to fight and work for you. The skeleton also ties in with fetch item gameplay, since large monsters like the tree spirit will have a hard time carrying objects. I want my game to have a different experience as the players progress parts of the game. I also made the first NPC concept, the witch. I want her to be in the swamp biome, and her main purpose is to be a quest giver and a focal point of the Necromancer class storyline. Similar to the Firekeeper in Firelink Shrine, your swamp ruins will be the main base and safe hub. The witch will also be the storyteller as you progress, telling you her discoveries and uncovering tidbits of the lore of the island. I don't have a name yet for the witch, and I'm thinking of making all characters of the game generic, similar to the anime Goblin Slayer, where the characters of the show are just generic names like Priestess, High Elf Archer, Goblin Slayer, or Cowgirl? What do you think? Shall we name NPC characters? Let me know if you have thoughts and suggestions in the comments below. I also finally started making my levels. I thought the starting area should have as many particles, sounds, lighting, and foliage, so that I can benchmark how the game will perform firsthand with these many assets to consider. So far, the assets that I got from the asset store are super optimized, that I have good FPS even though there are a lot of objects and particles in the camera view. I also added dynamic weather and volumetric cloud assets to the game. Yeah, I know it's not good to start with the looks before the gameplay, but I just want to test how far my game can go with high graphics requirements. My goal is to get the minimum system requirement my game can run and get the balance of performance and quality. Still experimenting on the new asset and playing around with reflections at nighttime. I got problems with the game being too dark at night. I also asked my friends to check it and they said it's too dark. So I researched and experimented and found out about auto exposure settings and diffusion profiles. These settings made night and day look good. I also studied and added some 3D sounds to the scene just to make it more alive. This way, finally the mood and lighting of the game is complete. Time to have people test it to see how they feel about the mood of the game. So I made a build, zipped it, and uploaded it to Google Drive for people to download. It's really challenging for me to get testers. I don't really have a lot of gamer friends, and I don't have a community yet to test them. So I asked my friends to test them out. Good thing some did. I even asked my 4-year-old daughter to test them out. I stopped development and went out on a vacation with my family. It's important to take a break from time to time, giving you room to think, saving you from the monotony of your work. Went back from a quick weekend vacation and found out that the game can't run on lower end PCs. I researched and found out that HDRP projects recommend processors that are quad cores. Some of my testers only have dual cores. This made me decide to make a benchmark for my game. I believe that it would take 5 years or even more to complete my first game. By then, lower end rigs will probably already be obsolete. So I just decided to benchmark my game using my rig. This will also save me time shipping unfinished builds to my friends just to test out hardware capabilities. Instead, I will only ship builds to test specific features and mood of the game. To wrap up the month, I finally made a new crucial gameplay mechanic to the game. Now, the Wisp can transform into a monster, the Skeleton. My plan for the game is to have multiple characters with different playstyles that center around the Wisp. Yeah, I know it's ambitious and needs tons of work, but I will take my time and learn the necessary skills to make everything fall into place. I'll be segmenting the development into parts and will be working on them full-time, side by side with my full-time job as a web developer. My goal, and the only goal for now, is to focus on making a playable demo to test the tree spirit and some parts of the skeleton gameplay, and learn the tools and develop the skills needed along the way. Then see from there where to proceed next. If you want to check the detailed progress diary, I created a playlist for it. Let me know what you think about my game so far. I still have a long way to go, but if you have suggestions or feedback, they will really be greatly appreciated. Feel free to leave them in the comments below, and until next time.